Terrifying Japanese ghost, urban legend stories. These may sound like they come from Japanese horror movies about your typical yurei and yokai, ghosts and mythological spirits, but they're based on true stories, for the most part. 1. Howling Inunki Tunnel. The true mystery of Inunki Village is whether or not it ever existed. Rumors of it have persisted in Japan and online since the 1990s. Supposedly located deep in the Inunki countryside of Kyushu's Fukuoka Prefecture, this abandoned village is said to only be accessible through Inunki Tunnel. The stories say that all who enter the village are doomed to a violent death. These myths and tales also seem to mention that there is some sort of official sign stating, the Japanese constitution is not in effect past here, meaning all who enter are on their own to face the real or supernatural horrors that await. The sounds of barking dogs and ghastly screams emanate from deep inside the tunnel. The tales, however, were likely inspired by a brutal murder that actually took place in Inunki Tunnel. The tunnel, being remote and rarely used by traffic, was a popular spot for gangs. One afternoon in December 1988, a group of teens kidnapped, robbed, and tortured 20-year-old Umeyama Koichi before burning the young man alive deep within the tunnel. Today, Inunki Tunnel, or Howling Dog Tunnel in Japanese, is considered one of the most haunted places in Japan. Large concrete bricks block its entrance, though adventurers manage to get in, regardless. Locals say electronic devices and even their cars often break down around the tunnel, and the sounds of barking dogs and ghastly screams emanate from deep inside the tunnel. 2. The doll that grows human hair. This story goes that in 1918, in Hokkaido, Ikichi Suzuki purchased for his young sister, Kikuko, a traditional Japanese okappa, bob cut hairstyle, doll. Sadly, Kikuko died from a cold, and the family kept the doll in a shrine to their daughter and named it Okiku. However, the family noticed something odd about the doll over time, its hair was getting longer. The family believed the doll possessed the restless spirit of their deceased daughter and so looked after it until entrusting it in the care of Monanji Temple. There the doll remains, slowly growing human hair. You can visit Okiku, but photography isn't allowed. Today, even after a few trims from the temple's priests, the doll's hair has grown past its knees. It has also supposedly upped its terror. The priests claim to have nightmares of Okiku and visitors say the doll's mouth is slowly opening, and sprouting baby teeth. 3. Parlor children. In Japan's Tohoku region, poor families would often abandon children they could not afford to raise, leaving them to die. Those abandoned, dead children would eventually come to haunt homes in the region as Ashikiwarashi. Many centuries ago, in an unassuming Iwate village, there lived a kind, lovable man named Masaimon. Masaimon was beloved by the other villages for his friendly, sweet nature. He lived well, and his family had a home and enough money to live. But one day, a traveling monk approached Masaimon and warned him that he would soon fall into complete ruin, with no money left for his family. Masaimon was left feeling shaken, confused, and frightened. The monk's words wouldn't leave him and, soon, his dread and anxiety turned to fever and sickness. Bedridden, Masaimon was visited by the sound of light and quick footsteps from above. Perhaps those of a child. When they at last fell silent, the footsteps were replaced by a voice. It also came from above and asked Masaimon, "Are you dead? Are you dead?" Droplets of water fell on Masaimon's head and the voice warned him, "Are you dead? Are you dead?" When the ghost child showed itself, it was soaking wet from top to bottom, dripping water onto the floor. Masaimon passed out from the shock. "Are you dead?" The fear consumed the sick and weak Masaimon, and he fell dead from the shock, leaving the house silent and unwanted. When nobody would even visit the home, much less buy it, his family fell into ruin, just as the monk had warned. Old Mountain Woman. Many of the yokai to populate Japanese ghost stories are those of women, and one popular rural yokai takes the shape of a man-eating ogre, Oni, woman who is said to reside in the wild mountains. At the base of a large mountain lived a family with 3 sons. One day, the mother tells her sons that she must go away for a short while and that they must keep the door closed, no matter who comes knocking. It was known to everyone in the area that a man-eating ogre woman lived in the dense forest near the mountain's peak. If she knows that the boys are home alone, she will come knocking. Once the mother has given her warning, she leaves. That night, there comes a knock at the door. When the oldest son reaches the door, he asks, "Who's there?" The ragged voice of the woman says, "Who's there?" The oldest son refuses to open the door, believing it to be the ogre woman in disguise. The next night, there comes another knock at the door. When the youngest son asks, "Who's there?" a silky, soft woman's voice answers, "I am a friend of your mother's, here to deliver a message." "Who's there?" says the youngest son. Through the crack in the door, the son spies a weathered hand with long fingers, covered in coarse hair. He refuses to answer the door. "Who's there?" the voice of a woman answers, "It's your mother. I have come home." When the middle son asks to see her hand, he sees through the crack only a soft, delicate white hand. Satisfied, he opens the door. There, filling the doorframe, is the ogre woman. She reaches out and snatches the middle son, devouring him quickly. The two remaining sons flee the house and gather up armfuls of stones before climbing a nearby tree, so tall it might reach the heavens. When the ogre gives chase and makes it halfway up the tree, the boys rain down stones on her head. The ogre loses her balance and crashes to the ground, her blood seeping into the roots of the tree.